welcome back to those of you who've been joining us for so many amazing speakers that we've been having on our summit. Welcome to those who are just tuning in to the Women's Biz Tribe Next Level Success Summit. We are just having such a fabulous time over 2 days of incredible speakers from around the globe. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Annie Gibbins. I'm the CEO of Women's Biz Tribe. And the Women's Biz Tribe is a global community of empowered women who collaborate, celebrate, help each other to achieve our own unique versions of success, balance, and happiness. So we're all about fast tracking the success journey, and we definitely love to be unapologetic about stepping into and claiming success on our terms. We're super excited that all of you, if you've just tuned in, everyone coming to this summit becomes an automatic member of Women's Biz Tribe for a complimentary month, and we look forward to meeting you at our online webinars. Now, with no hesitation, I would love to introduce you to our next amazing speaker, Dr. Olivia Ong. Dr. Ong is known as the heart-centered doctor. She's been a pain physician for 15 years, and she's an expert on resilience and burnout. You will hear that after a severe car accident in 2008, which left her a paraplegic, Dr. Ong was told that she would never walk again and never practice medicine again. Can you imagine? And so Dr. Ong quickly found out exactly what it's like to be on the other side of the healthcare system, and it had certainly been enlightening. She spent years then as a patient in hospitals and rehab facilities in Australia and the US, attempting to regain some of her capabilities that were taken away from her. And she certainly has had quite the journey through her intensive recovery since then. I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Ong to share with you today. Thank you so much.
On one fine spring day in 2008, my life changed forever. I was walking in the hospital car park when I was suddenly hit by a car at high speed. My body was flung into the air, and as I hovered, like a slow-motion movie, a few thoughts ran through my head. You see, my friends, a few years earlier in my late 20s, I had ticked all the success boxes. I was working as a junior doctor in a reputable hospital, happily married, had my own house and car, and had a great network of friends. Life was great. But in reality, I wasn't fulfilled. I lacked self-worth. Why do so many people who seemingly have it all lack self-worth? Being a perfectionist, I used to beat myself up for the tiniest of mistakes. I didn't listen to my own needs when work got busy. I did my job on autopilot, running around from ward to ward, doing my charts. I even scolded myself for needing to use the bathroom. I actually wished at that time I had a catheter. Then I wouldn't have to stop working to pee, right? How crazy was that, the old me? As a doctor, I was programmed as a Lone Ranger. I did not seek help because that meant I was weak, not capable, dare I say not competent. My Lone Ranger programming made me feel isolated, disconnected, and helpless. Which is exactly how I felt flying through the air after being struck by an old Toyota Camry traveling at 60 kilometers per hour. Hey, at least I could have picked Mercedes, right? I landed with an earth-shattering thud. I had a spinal cord injury. I lost the ability to walk. Being a patient on the other side of the healthcare system, the days in the hospital were challenging and an eye-opener. And this time, funnily enough, I really did have a catheter because I was in spinal shock. I felt like a pincushion with drips on my arms, feeding tube up my nose. I had never felt so vulnerable at that time. For months after my spinal surgery, every day I used all of my willpower and tried my best to move my legs, day in, day out, but I couldn't. They were paralyzed. They were not moving at all. I felt defeated, so broken, so helpless. I felt angry at the driver, who was an elderly gentleman with severe dementia. Why was he doing on the road? And why was he there and then hit me with his car? I was lying in a hospital bed by myself for many, many months, not being able to move, all alone. I felt such intense grief and loss following my injury. Will I be able to walk again? Will I ever be a doctor? That was my identity. That was all I knew. Since I was a kid, I've always wanted to be a doctor. I'm such a burden to my husband. Will he just leave me? Will I ever have kids? If you have suffered a loss or been through a traumatic event, you know how easy it is to blame yourself for your accident. How it feels to have everybody look at you with pity, to feel sorry for you. It makes you feel sorry for yourself. My self-worth, which was already low at that point, plummeted to the ground. I so badly needed to walk again, not only because I wanted to be mobile, but because I wanted to have my identity back, even an identity that lacked self-worth. One day I heard about Project Walk, a center for spinal cord injury recovery in San Diego, United States. At first, I thought that the state-of-the-art technology was what was going to help me walk again. But after spending 3 years there, I did learn to walk again. But I realized that my experience over that Project Walk taught me a far more important life lesson: self-compassion. You see, my friends, my experience to learn to walk again was the exact opposite of my life as a junior doctor. Instead of being on autopilot, wishing that I had a catheter, to not think about going to the bathroom, I had to be mindful of each step I took. I literally took baby steps because I had to relearn all the things that a baby does. Apologies. Instead of being a lone ranger struggling to seek help, I connected with fellow spinal cord injury survivors, my friends on wheels, bound together by our common humanity and our common suffering, being spinal cord injury. Most important of all, instead of being a perfectionist, beating myself up for every mistake I made, I learned to accept myself for who I was. Apologies. Hi, my friends. When was the last time you have beaten yourself up for a little mistake you made? Mindfulness, common humanity, and self-acceptance. These are the 3 pillars of self-compassion. And these were the things that gave me self-worth, not walking again, and definitely not the initial success I had earlier. After 3 years spending 5 hours every day doing physical therapy at Project Walk, I learned to walk again with a limp and 2 sticks. I was over the moon, and I went back to my job in Australia in 2012, happy, enthusiastic, and ready to tackle new challenges. Research indicates that self-compassion leads to increased personal productivity. Self-compassion allows you to remain calm in the face of failure, rejection, and criticism. You experience higher well-being and are more productive and successful. Excuse me. And self-compassion also leads to reduced stress as it activates our soothing system, which leads to greater feelings of well-being. And slowly and surely, my self-worth started coming back. I went on to pass my fellowship exams, or board exams, we call it in the United States, in rehabilitation medicine in 2014. I went on to pass my fellowship exams in Faculty of Pain Medicine in 2017. So I became a dual-trained rehabilitation and pain physician. Excuse me. I went on to have 2 beautiful children whom I adore. I built a beautiful life from something that was traumatic and sad. I became a formidable force in the lives of my family and friends. I became more influential around my skeptical medical colleagues who eventually learned to respect me. And most important of all, I learned to respect myself. I rebuilt my identity that has self-worth through self-compassion. And you must be thinking that I've gotten my entire life together at that point. But I didn't. In 2019, I fell face down with burnout, but at least this time it wasn't because of my legs. Excuse me. I was exhausted. I had insomnia, and I was cynical and sarcastic. I was a horrible person to be around. At the time, I was working full-time as a pain specialist, just finished my pain fellowship exams, and juggling motherhood with a 3-year-old boy amongst all this, and a disability. People will say that I was a superwoman. They will say that they didn't know how I managed to do it all. How did I do it all? At service with hard work and sacrifice. I was on a hamster wheel. Excuse me. I was working hard, trying to be everything for everyone, and that felt like the right thing to do because it wasn't about me, right? As a result, my energy and well-being had been slowly depleting over the years and reached dangerously low levels. I was only getting by. I hadn't been okay for years since my injury. I wasn't looking after myself. I was withdrawing and disconnecting. And I was so tired. I was barely holding it together, and I secretly wondered how much longer could I go on like this? It turns out that it will only be a matter of time before I had my face down moment in 2019 as the full force of burnout took its toll on me. My story of recovery from burnout didn't start with a dramatic declaration of self-compassion, mindfulness, Zen, all meditative. Not like that. Excuse me. It started from a place of basic human needs. To care for my family, to provide for my family. If I wasn't okay, we weren't okay. I needed to be okay. And I wasn't. The only possible way was up from that point. I had to recover. I promised myself that I will never ever be in this dark place of burnout again. I realized that it was time for me to up the ante in self-compassion, to be 100% responsible for myself and my choices, and to stop giving that power away to people, to other people. I invested in my recovery by learning new tools such as self-compassion, mindfulness, to help me feel calm and balanced. I got coaches. I had life coaches, spiritual coaches, leadership coaches, excuse me, who coached me through my mindset issues. Boy, there were so many. And limiting beliefs. That inspired me to become a coach myself. Now, 3 years on, not only am thriving in my medical practice, I also have a thriving coaching practice. I have more energy, more personal time off for myself and my family, and feeling a renewed sense of purpose. I just want to talk right now about kintsugi and golden joinery. This has a special place in my heart. Kintsugi is a centuries-old Japanese art of fixing broken pottery. Instead of using clear adhesive to hide the break, the technique uses a special resin dusted with gold that highlights the cracks. The object, through this restoration process, is given a second life, and in this new form, the cracks shine through as beautiful as seams of gold. Each piece is more stunning and unique than when it was whole in its original form. And just like kintsugi, you can overcome burnout through self-compassion. We celebrate the cracks. We honor the struggles. And a big part of why I started my coaching practice sometime in late 2020 was because over the last 15 years I've been a physician and a doctor. I've just seen way many of my colleagues burn out, and they weren't seeking help. They were just pushing through it. They will take time off and then jump on the bandwagon again. I did that, but I went on a different path, a different spiritual path, by getting coaches to help me find my way back to my heart. And I resolve that I will like to teach all these tools to my peers who are going through burnout so that they don't have to suffer anymore like that. And at the moment, burnout is at an all-time high in the healthcare profession. It used to be 42% before COVID. And right now it's about 70%. And it's on the rise. There's been news about increasing rates of mental health issues and healthcare workers. And even this morning when I watched the news, there was news about the emergency departments seeking more security staff to prevent, in other words, to keep the workplaces safe for the doctors, nurses, allied health workers in the emergency departments, just because of the increasing violence, verbal and physical, towards them. That leads to burnout too. So that's the main reason why I set up my coaching practice, to help my peers, my medical peers, through burnout and help them lead balanced lives. And a big part of my coaching practice is also to educate them through workshops and webinars, to teach them about how they can find a way out of burnout into a fulfilling and happy life again. I'm also an established author as well. I'm an authorpreneur. In fact, I have a company called Heart-Centered Books, where I publish books. And at the moment, I'm writing a children's book with my 7-year-old son, Joe. We're writing a book called Jojo the Kind Sloth, a children's book about self-compassion. Because I thought to myself, adults struggle with self-compassion, not just healthcare professionals. Every adult human being I've met seem to struggle with this. And I told myself, I want the kids to understand this from a very young age. And then when they grow up, they'll be such happier and more joyful adults who are able to practice self-love for themselves. And that's the reason why Joe and I decided to write this book together, Jojo the Kind Sloth. And my spinal cord injury, my burnout recovery, and my business, and why I set up my multiple businesses, I've had many, many aha moments. And these are the key aha moments for me. Don't take things for granted. Practice self-compassion in your life, in your business, in your career. Practice self-compassion. Own who you are without apology. We all need help. It doesn't mean we are weak. It's good to have a peer group that understands you. Excuse me. We need to be diligent and be mindful and not lose track of ourselves. And this is me today. I practice, coach, and mentor radical resilience. I teach these principles to my coaching clients and to my kids as well, and to my peers. If you'd like to know more about this topic on burnout and how self-compassion can help you in your personal life, your professional life, and even your career, and how it can affect you and your team, please feel free to email me at hello@drolivialeeong.com excuse me, or connect with me on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I'm on those platforms. Thank you, my friends, for listening to my presentation today. Just remember to lead your life with self-compassion and radical resilience. Thank you so much.
Wow. Wow. What an incredible presentation, and what an incredible story, which is a story to us, but it is your lived experience, right? To be able to be so vulnerable, to be able to share that with such incredible self-reflection, honesty. It's really powerful. I thank you for that powerful presentation, Dr. Olivia, because yeah, there's just so much learning there. How many of us listening into this summit have, just neglected ourselves so much that we don't have self-compassion, and we actually never think, I've never sort of thought of those words. Do I have self-compassion? We are so busy doing, we are so busy striving, we're so busy trying to tick those boxes, of boxes that maybe were given to us by our childhood experiences and in the families and the environments that we've been raised in, and many of them self-imposed, right? Self-imposed, that we decide these things are going, these things need to be done to be the successful person, and for you, Miss Overachiever, oh my goodness, you certainly have ticked so many of those boxes. But the journey that you went on and the learning, it must have been actually really surprising. There you go to the US to learn to walk again, and you actually have this transformational journey about learning about your true self. And often I find that we don't take that time. You called it the hamster wheel. We're on that hamster wheel, and it's when you actually are forced sometimes, and sometimes that is very ugly when it happens from burnout, to actually take a pause and go, wow, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why am I living this way? What is the effects on me? And to think that that is, impacting our health professionals, our most needed people, and particularly at this time in COVID, is just absolutely incredible. And I think it's a really great moment for us through this presentation to just stop and pause and reflect. How are we actually showing up every day, and why are we showing up that way? And is that really bringing out the very best in ourselves? Because that's it. You want to be a great mum, you want to be a great wife, partner, you want to be a great friend, you want to be able to be balanced in your life and ultimately happy. And you're such an incredible role model. And wow, what a joy now to be writing a book like that with your son. That is very special as a mum, right? You must be tickled pink that you're just like, yeah, this is super. It's a wonderful thing to do together, and it's a wonderful message to be showing children. And I love that about coaches. I love it that so much of that comes from your why. Why do you want to do this? And actually, while your day-to-day business is, medicine and coaching other doctors to avoid burnout, you're actually now starting with a younger generation. And that's what we've got to do with all of it, because ultimately, I'm sure you have those feelings like I do, Olivia, that you just don't want your kids to have these painful journeys if possible. We've all got to walk our own life, but you want them to avoid as much of that as possible by being really strong and grounded. So absolutely amazing. Wow. Well, those of you listening in, definitely put some chats in the chat wherever you are on LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook. Put some comments in the chat. Ask some questions to Dr. Olivia, and she will, after this presentation, go in and talk with you. Definitely reach out to her if you're a doctor. If you've suffered a major trauma, you might want to go to drolivialeong.com and just make contact with her, and definitely through the Women's Biz Tribe. As you know, all speakers on the summit are part of Women's Biz Tribe, so you can actually find any of our speakers just online in our Facebook group. They're absolutely sensational women who are just so happy to be able to share their journey with you, and also to hear about you and what you're dealing with at the moment, because we've all got stuff. We're all dealing with life, particularly the trauma and change that COVID has brought all of us. We're having a new reboot in our lives, and it's such an important time to be able to link up with the professionals that we want to have. So thank you so much for sharing on the summit today. It's been absolutely incredible, Dr. Olivia.
All right. Thanks, Annie, for having me. Thank you.